Hello, welcome to the first edition of Daryl Show Your Work. In these series of videos, I will be basically displaying different elements of cybersecurity and tools in which you can use to basically display your talent in the cybersecurity industry. So, to give you some background on why I started these videos, I kept seeing multiple cybersecurity experts saying, hey, anyone that wants to get into or advance the cybersecurity field, it's good to be able to set up home labs and show hiring managers what it is that you can do. And for a long time, I was just kind of, resistant to that and saying that, credentials and background and everything that you show on your resume should be enough. But you know what? I finally gave in and I said, fine, you know what? I'm going to show my work. And so, in doing this, while my audience is primarily prospective employers, but it's also other cybersecurity professionals or aspiring cybersecurity professionals that want to get into this field and showing them different things within basic things within cybersecurity that they can do and hopefully some things that they can take away and learn from and give them just examples of how it is that they can show their work. So with no further ado, we're going to get into this video. So what I will be showing here are basic PowerShell commands. So PowerShell is a tool often used by system administrators to do various tasks to harden the attack surface of nodes or specifically a lot of times servers. But also from a malicious standpoint or red team standpoint, this can be used to enumerate features on a computer. For example, a living off the land attack, which an intruder comes into your machine, and instead of bringing their own tools in to continue to do what nefarious acts they plan to do, they'll just use whatever's on that computer to launch a said attack on it. And oftentimes this is PowerShell. So they'll come into your system and they'll enumerate, your directories, see what files you have in there, be able to stick files in certain temporary folders where it may be hard to find, and also escalate their privileges to pivot into different parts of your network, and again, do whatever nefarious acts they're going to do. But in this video, I'm just going to show just some basic commands, so you'll get a good feel for how PowerShell is used and some different things that can be done with it. So first, we're going to click here on PowerShell, and then I'm going to choose to run as administrator to give myself some privileges here. All right, so the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is basically how to get help. So if you don't know how to particularly use PowerShell, the best thing to do to get started is we're going to write get help. And what this does, it shows us different things that we can do. So it shows us that we can use get help with other commandlets, which then will give us different type of arguments that we can use with commandlets to perform different type of tasks. So for example, here there's get help, update help, and so this would populate different ways in which you could use the update feature in on the Windows platform, and in order to do certain updates, or if you wanted to schedule updates, or or things of that nature. So that is get help. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at find some different commands that we can run in PowerShell. So we're going to, sorry for the typo there. So we're going to write get command. And this literally gives us all possible commands that we could run within PowerShell. Different type of utilities, things that scheduling different type of jobs, all sorts of things that we can use PowerShell for. So this would just give you that full list of all your options of command lists that you can use within PowerShell. Of course, like if you're like most of us, you don't know them by heart. This will show you how to do so. All right. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to combine get help with name process. So what this does is it's going to give us our options. It's going to show us our options as far as if we want to find different processes that are running. We can also combine that with the get help to show us what our options are as far as using get process. And I'm going to show you here how that works. All right, so as you can see, so it shows us here different options that we can use as far as commandlets that we can use as far as identifying running processes on our client machine here. So as you can see, this is beginning to show you how either a system administrator, if you're blue team, or if you're red team, how possible enumeration can happen, because now this is showing us different ways we can identify certain processes running on the machine, and someone can use this to either identify rogue processes or processes that shouldn't be there, or processes in which someone could use to take advantage of on your machine. So another enumeration technique we could use here is a simple command called dir, which would basically display all the files within our current working directory. So as you can see, we have a lot of files in our current working directory, which a lot of them are library files. But if we go further up, there's some executables here. And so again, this is another enumeration technique that either an administrator can use to be able to identify all running processes, or a malicious user could use as far as finding processes of which they can manipulate and do some pretty nasty things to your system. All right, so all right, let's go into another enumeration technique that we could find here. So what we're going to do is we're going to find out what our PowerShell version is. All right, so we're going to do PowerShell, $PowerShell table. So again, so let's say an attacker wanted to know more about the system that they're using, what version of PowerShell that they're using. Well, then they would use this command to find out, okay, what version of PowerShell am I using, and for example, previous versions of PowerShell could be susceptible to certain attacks. So then if the client is using an outdated version of PowerShell, then an attacker who's utilizing a live off the land attack can use that to exploit certain things in previous versions of or legacy versions of PowerShell. They can exploit those things to their advantage, or maybe some commands that you could previously run that you can't run in newer versions. Again, that's an attack vector that can be used by a potential attacker. All right, so and then here's a major one here. Look, we're gonna find out what the execution policy is for the directory that we are in. So in doing this, we're gonna find out, basically, can this can this account run executable files? And that's very important when we're talking about cybersecurity, because oftentimes when it comes to malicious payloads or any sort of malware, they often come in the form of exe files or executable files. And so these are files that basically that will run and conduct various actions whether we wanted to infect several parts of the network, or infect certain, or we wanted to set like a logic bomb. So when someone does a particular action, then that sets it off. Those often involve exe files, and typically you don't want every account to be able to just run, especially in an enterprise and a work environment, be able to have the ability just to willy-nilly run any executable file that they see fit. So it's good to have that locked down depending on what your security policy is. So we're going to run get execution policy. All right, then we're going to run that. And let's see. And that, as you can see, is unrestricted. So unrestricted means that pretty much that at least this account can run executable files without any restrictions. So if I was an attacker, and let's say I've entered into the system and I compromised this particular account that I'm using now, and I started these enumeration techniques to find out more about this account. If I find out that, hey, that I can run executable commands in an unrestricted way, I mean, I've hit the gold mine, because then pretty much then I can pretty much introduce any type of executable file, malicious executable file I wanted to in this environment, and not have to really do much else in terms of gaining privileges and triggering those files. I could do so by default using this, which is, again, it's not ideal. Now, since I'm an administrator, this is another reason why you want to really protect your administrator accounts, because if an administrator account is compromised, like the one that I'm using now, a lot of them do have this unrestricted policy, because again, they are administrator. They often have to run processes that involve executable files in order to do some legit activity within networks, to be able to maintain profiles, to automate certain processes, to keep the enterprise up and running. So this is something you want to be very leery of as far as your policy, in terms of your user policy, and just making sure that you do not have standard users or basic users that have unrestricted execution policy. All right, so as you see, we've written various commands here so far. So if we wanted to again get a history of the different commands that we've run so far today in this lab, we could just do a get history. And as you can see, if you remember, we started off with get help, then we did a get command, then we did get help and name process, dir, version table, and then lastly we did a get execution policy. So again, so let's say that again, this could be used as far as investigation. Let's say an account was compromised, and an administrator, somebody who had the privileges to be able to access this profile, wanted to see, hey, what were the commands that may have been run with this compromised account during the attack. They could do a get history, and they could get this list of commands that may have been executed by a compromised account, and get an idea of how the attacker was able to at least perform attacks once they were inside the enterprise. From a red teaming perspective, they can look at this and they can see what commands, a history of commands that the legitimate user may have been using, to get an idea of how the account is used. And again, it is another enumeration technique for an attacker to be able to understand the account and the best attack vectors to use to compromise the system. All right, so if we want to see a full list of current running processes, we would do a get process. And as you can see, this shows us all current running processes right now, along with their IDs. So again, this is it's the same. It's the same as doing using Task Manager and then going to processes there, but this just allows us to do that from the command line. So, it just is very easily it if an attacker did or an administrator did a Control Alt Delete and then opened up the Task Manager and then went to processes, then this allows us to do that at least from but it allows us to do that from the command line. So takes a lot of steps out of a lot of clicking of of being able to see the running processes, and it just shows us everything here on the PowerShell command line. So it kind of speaks for itself. Again, it just shows whoever, whether they're blue team, red team, allows them to see all current running processes and gives them a good, again, they could be looking for rogue process or legitimate processes that, again, from an attacker's point of view, a process that maybe that they know they could easily exploit, and that would help them to do all type of things like again, like privilege escalation, or a certain protocol that they may be able to exploit and pass malware through. Okay, so if we wanted to see what current directory we're actually working in at the moment, we can do a get location, and this tells us by observing the path that we are on a C drive within the Windows directory and the System32. So currently, that's our current working directory. And again, this would tell whoever that where their current directory is, and so then they'll be able to know potentially where else to pivot, or where they can stick certain malicious files according to where their current starting point is. All right. Now let's get into some ways in which we can use PowerShell in order to create some things. So let's say we wanted to create a file. All right. So right now I'm going to show how to create a text file just from the PowerShell command line. So I'm going to write new item, and then we're going to call this file test file.txt. And what we're doing essentially here, pardon my typos, we're just creating a new a new file here, a text file here from the PowerShell command line. So new item tells the system that, hey, we're creating a new file, and then we're telling it what we want to name it and the type of file, the .txt, which is a text file. So I'm going to hit enter. All right. And as we can see, it's telling us that the test file.txt has been placed in the System32 folder within this particular directory. And right now, mode shows us what our current privileges are. It shows us the date and time in which it was created, and it's showing us that the file name and the text file. So right now, that's a text file. So right now, it's an empty file. So if we wanted to populate that file, and write some things in it, but just do it just solely from the PowerShell command line. We're going to write set, see content, and then we're going to, all right, so that tells it that what we want to do, and then it tells us, then we're going to tell it what file we want to interact with, and that would be the file that we just created here, the test file .txt. And then, all right, then we're going to type -value to identify the content we want to populate within the document. So we're going to put quotes, and we're going to write cyber is awesome. Excuse me, my lab here is acting a bit wonky. Let's see this. All right, here we go. Let's add a explanation point right there. All right, and then I'm gonna hit enter. All right, so if we want to see whether or not this actually worked as far as entering the Cyrus awesome comment within the text.txt file, we're going to do a get content, and this is telling PowerShell that, hey, I want you to read back to me what it is that I just wrote in this document. So we're writing get content, and then now we're telling it where to get the content from, where to pull it from. So of course it's going to be the file, the text file that we created, the test file.txt. All right. So again, we're saying to get the, here is telling it to get the content, which is Cyber is awesome, from the test file.txt file that we created earlier. And I'm gonna hit enter, and there we go. Cyber is awesome. So you just want to make sure that here where we identified the value that we were entering into the test file, we want to make sure we quote it. So cyber is awesome. So it's going to be quote and then end quote, and then within those are going to be the actual content that you want displayed, which is cyber is awesome, where you see it's no quotes here, and that it's just displaying the content that we want displayed on the screen. So let's say that we have a file, right, that we no longer have use for, again, from a blue team perspective. But let's say an attacker seen some files that they wanted to delete, okay, to frustrate, the legitimate users or the enterprise, or if they wanted to clean their tracks from attack that they just conducted, and wanted to just kind of clean their tracks a bit and make it a bit harder for the instant responders to be able to determine how the attack was conducted. They can use this command to remove files. So we're going to do a remove -item. Okay, so let's say we wanted to get rid of the file that we just created, which is the test file.txt. All right, so we're telling it, hey PowerShell, remove an item, and remove this item, and specify which item we want to get rid of, and that's the txt file. All right, so I've hit enter. So then we want to make sure that to check our work, to make sure that that file is indeed gone. So in order to do that, we're going to run the command that we're going to run that get content command again. But I'm going to show you something cool. So if you use your directional buttons on your keyboard, you can also go down or also go through the history, and you can run previous commands that you've already ran before um, um, by just scrolling through. So I'm going up and pray. All right. So as you can see, that brought up the remove item.text test file.txt, because that's what we just used. And I'm gonna hit up again to go back even further. So we're going to use this command here to get content test file.txt, in which we use. That's what we used before to pull the content from the test file.txt to tell us that it read cyber is awesome. So ideally, if that file no longer exists, we should get an error telling us that, hey, we can't find that file and we cannot process this command. So let's see what happens. And voila, as we can see, Windows is telling us that, hey, this file no longer exists. And because before this, we removed the item from our directory. So that comes to the end of this video. Again, I wanted just to show you all some ways in which PowerShell can be used to run just some basic enumeration, system enumeration, how to do so from a blue team perspective, and how to do so from a particular red team perspective, which is a malicious actor perspective. And again, this is for learning purposes. I do not advise to do this in any way in which you're conducting any type of malicious actions. But this is to help for educational purposes, and to help to build a blue team and a red team mindset. I hope that this video was helpful to you, and I look forward to seeing you all in future videos.